Book 1. There. The Hive. Chapter 1. I feel like death. Not metaphorical alike, I can't even breathe death. Every breath hurts, moving a muscle feels like a fatal mistake. No idea how long I lay there before I started inching off the bed millimeter by millimeter because if I stayed put, the dry mouth alone was going to finish me off. It felt like an hours-long crawl to the kitchen, only to discover the faucet was dead. Not a drop. I eyed the kettle empty too. If my tongue hadn't been sandpaper, I'd have howled. I staggered to the fridge. No water there either, but I remembered half a bottle of white one, Atasha, and I hadn't finished it the night before last. I'm not a hair of that odd guy, but desperate times. I camped on the linoleum and sipped nectar, which kept trying to come right back up. Why am I this hungover? We didn't stay out late. We barely drank just some wine. I'm supposed to take the evening train to Abakan, pack my things, my buddies have work in the morning, no time for a bender. An hour later I managed to open my eyes and breathe without whimpering. Something inside felt torn, my head throbbed, nausea rolled in waves, but damn it, it was better. I hauled myself upright, glanced out the window and froze. One thought kept bouncing off my skull. What the hell did they pour in my glass last night? Where did the mountains go? The view had me doubting reality. What the actual hell is happening? Couldn't stand any longer, so I dropped into a chair and tried to process what I'd just seen. Normally, if you look from my window through the gap between the 5-story blocks, you see the Abakan River and the forested mountains beyond it. The buildings are there. The river's there. The forest's there. The mountains are gone. Hence the brain lockup. I looked again, scanning wider, and realized it wasn't just the mountains, an entire chunk of the city was missing. From up here I couldn't spot details, I'd have to go outside like everyone else. People were already clustering in the courtyards, gesturing and yelling. Somebody, somewhere had to know something. I threw on a tracksuit. The hangover had retreated behind a bigger shock. Tried calling friends, no cell service, landline dead. Hit the bathroom on the way out, lights off there too. Great! Time to see for myself. I'd barely made it to the second floor when the screaming started, then gunfire. Not single shots, machine guns to short bursts. Then the cracks of shotguns and pistols scattered around the neighborhood. What the hell kind of day is this? I bolted back up to my place, crawled under the window, and peeked out. Where the crowd had been, I saw 2 SUVs, a bus, and standing out like Nightmare Estuo converted trucks. They were fully clad in sheet steel, studs and spikes sticking out, windshields caged behind thick bars. And on each roof, twin cupolas with gunners facing front and back. They weren't firing now. They were covering the street while the others bandits, what else could they bet, chased people down. They dragged girls to the armored rigs. Any resistance from neighbors was answered with a shot. No hesitation. Who the hell are you? My fingers itched for a weapon. I regretted hard that I didn't keep any in the apartment. I'd have to get to Grandpa Nate's place. All my gear, including my shotgun, was stored with him while I was in the army. That was a 300-meter dash through a war zone. Assuming his house even exists anymore. That thought sent an ice herd of goosebumps marching down my spine. I couldn't see his street from here, it was on the opposite side. But staying in the apartment was a guaranteed mousetrap. First things first, get dressed for real. I grabbed dark brown trousers made of devil hide, a tough leather I'd bought on leave last year, and a heavy belt. My hunting knife hummed well off it, good for skinning game or slicing bread. Looked like skinning would be on today's menu, plenty of beasts outside. I pulled on my youth-heavy boots from the service, thick, unkillable soles. One kick in those and you'd remember it. Canvas jacket over a boonie hat in the same khaki, and I headed for the door. Stop! Almost forgot. From the wardrobe top I took down a box with my army trophy, a tomahawk. Matte black, all steel, axe on one side, a spike instead of a pole. Took it off a Brit in Congo, where I supposedly never was. A glance around, nothing else worth grabbing. That was my entire arsenal. The clock said 10:30 a.m. Hell of a morning. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. I crept to the ground floor, listening hard. The stairwell echoed gunshots from outside, otherwise silence. The entry door stood ajar, propped with a brick. Through the crack, nobody. I craned out. Nobody to the sides either. Thick shrubs flanked our doorway, snowberry along the fence and lilacs inside. Across the street was a little community orchard. Behind it, single-family homes. That was my route to Grandpa's. Gunfire popped in different parts of the city. I clenched my teeth. Who are you? Where did you come from? I'll bury you, you bastards. Anger churned hot, not just at them, but at myself for not stopping the outrage in front of me. I'd taken maybe 2 steps when a girl screamed around the corner, followed by male laughter and heavy boots. I dropped behind the fence bushes and watched between the branches. A girl sprinted into view. Murray from the next entrance, 15, pretty. Her dad Sam March was a decent guy. Ever since I got back from the army, she'd been all fluttery eyes around me. Now her hair was wild and her look crazed. She barreled down the 1-meter path between the building and the shrubbery toward me. 2 men turned the corner 5 meters behind, chasing hard. I set my stance, tomahawk high. Mary flew past without seeing me. When they were 2 meters out, I surged at them. The first guy reacted fast, bringing up his shotgun too slow. My tomahawk hit with a wet crack, burying into his skull. The second guy flinched back into the wall, twisting. He yanked up his weapon and fired into the lilacs. I smashed him from a short step right between the legs. He squeaked and folded into a fetal curl. And health? Better. What threw me was the second man's weapon, a crossbow, not a gun. He'd almost pinned me. Fast, aren't you? I scanned around, clear for the moment. Mary had ducked into her building. I listened at no one else rushing this way. I should hide the bodies before their pals swarmed. I grabbed the second guy by the jacket, groaned. Huh. After a hit like that, he was still alive, just out cold. Maybe the angle was glancing. I'll need you, friend. We're going to have a chat. I slung the first man's double barrel over my shoulder and dragged him into the lilacs. Patched rounds off his belt, took his 1-liter canteen. Skipped the thigh knife, mine was better. Padded pockets, lighter, smokes useless. The other pocket had a bandage, a tourniquet, and a metal tin. I pocketed it all. No ID? Figures. I had a tongue now. I'd asked the live one what they were. I yanked my tomahawk out of the skull, wiped it on the jacket, and jogged back to the second guy. He was still out. I took his crossbow and sprinted for the stairwell. Dumped the loot inside, then dragged the unconscious one in after it, leaving the door cracked so I could hear the street. His search turned up a leather quiver with 14 bolts, a canteen, smokes, a lighter, and gloves. Big knife on the thigh, more for show. No documents. Of course. I bound his wrists behind his back with his belt, stuffed his gloves in his mouth as a gag. He moaned but didn't wake. Don't go anywhere. I'll be quick. I grabbed the shotgun and sprinted up to my place. Our building doors and the cellar door were welded from plate steel. The basement had proper locks because of the storage cages. Without a key, you were out of luck. I burst in, snatched the basement keys and my flashlight, no power yet plus spare batteries. Back downstairs, I lugged the body and the living one into the cellar, locked us in. In my storage cage, I tied the bandit properly, plenty of rope down there. Why won't you wake up? I slapped him, pinched his nose, tickled him with the knife. Just groans. Fine. Rest. I've got to get to Grandpa. I shelved the crossbow and bolts, stashed the tomahawk, and left the boozy canteens down there. A harsh spirit stink rose off both. The tin held 3 prefilled 5 ml syringes and 4 pea-sized gray-green pellets. No idea what those were. I left them for later. I cracked a shell-course buckshot. Good enough. I propped the flashlight by the stairs for my return and slipped out. I didn't make it far. I was belladonna and raspberry canes at the edge of the orchard, watching 4 bandits better armed than the last pair fan down the street. Their rifles looked like RTKBs, and they moved well clean, overlapping sectors. 20 meters behind them, an SUV rolled back up with a gunner on top. I barely breathed, prayed hard. If the first 2 had been fast, what were these? And I had a hunter's double barrel. They'd chew me up. Not today. Luckily, it was Julith, leaves were thick. They passed without spotting me, heading into the single-family blocks. I crawled the other way, slipping yard to yard. At last dash. Grandpa Nate's house was across the road. The street looked empty. Distant gunfire flared now, and the Nevin the machine gun. Some hunter holed up and fighting, bad idea. Should have fled to the forest. I vaulted the fence and ran for it when chest first into a brick wall that materialized out of nowhere. Air whooshed from my lungs. I hit the dirt, eyes tearing, and blinked up at a man in the same gear as the street squad. I fumbled the shotgun toward him and he vanished. Just dissolved. Something slammed into my ribs from the side. The shotgun spun away. Fresh meat with temper. Huh. He stood a few steps off, admiring my gun. Up. Hands behind your back. We're going for a walk. Who are you? What was that? The words scraped out of me. Curious, too. His smirk made me want to break teeth. I reached for my knife. You want to play? He circled me, drawling, let's. I low. He didn't finish because a shotgun boomed from the neighbor's yard. Alex! You alive? Alive, Uncle Nate. I staggered up, grabbed the wheezing bastard by his harness and dragged him into the yard. Thanks! You saved my skin. Barely, the old man said, peering over the fence with his single barrel in hand. Slug in his back and he's still breathing. My prisoner wheezed while I stripped his rig, holster, and pockets. I watched him half an hour, Uncle Nate said. He was checking houses. Probably killed the pantaleaves he heard shots. He slipped into your yard, hid, and then you came along. Soon as he touched you. Thought you were dead. Should have shot earlier. But Alex, how'd he disappear? Don't know. It's all wrong today. Mountains gone, half the city missing. Their guns are off too, I said, examining the rifle. The rounds look close to ours, but the stamps are wrong. Nothing makes sense. Tell me about it. Finish him off, can't stand that noise. Tough bastard. I drew my knife and drove it into his heart. He arched and kept wheezing. It took 3 hard thrusts with a twist before he went quiet. You did him proper, Uncle Nate grunted. Figured you'd seen blood before? Now I know. Pigs are easier to stick, I muttered, wiping the blade. We need to get out to the forest. We can fight them from there. Stay here and they'll box us in. Not me, Alex. You go on. I'll sit tight and maybe take another one with me. He smiled, kind and stubborn. My Luba's been waiting, shows up in my dreams, scolds me for lingering. If you see your granddad, say hi from me. Good timing, him visiting your folks. Now go. Before more show. Lump in my throat. Uncle Nate was 15 years older than my granddad neighbors all their lives, taught me to hunt as a kid. His children had long moved away. His wife had passed 12 years ago, and ever since he'd said it was time to join her. He refused to move in with his kids, told them not to move back. Chose to stay, alone with his memories. Take the shotgun and shells. I pressed my first trophies on him. Keep your single barrel as well. Maybe you'll take more with you. I'll manage with this rifle. Once I hit the forest, I'll pluck them too. Check his pack in your yard, he said as we hugged. He had a rucksack. Might be something good. Now go. I belted on the holstered pistol Block 17, 919, slung the harness on one shoulder, rifle in the other hand, bowed to Uncle Nate, and slipped back to my yard. This time no ghosts got me. The ruck was easy to spot by the fence of 40 liters maybe. I grabbed it and headed inside to check it properly. First, the info traps. You don't hike far in boots and socks, you'll shred your feet. Then I dumped the harness, 8 magazines, 2 grenades, a familiar pen case with prefilled syringes. This one had 4. I left them too, for now, along with the bandage and tourniquet. Nothing else extra. That. I washed the blood off the harness before it dried hard and adjusted the straps to fit me bigger than him, so I cinched it loose. He tossed me around like a kid. Those street guys had been quick, this one actually vanished. Questions. 2 canteens on the ruck's side, some water, 1 booze. Did these guys function only on alcohol? 3 out of 4 canteens I'd seen reeked of spirits. Front pocket held a bundle of zipkies. Inside the ruck, powder in tins, primers, assorted ammunition and bullets, plus tools for hand loading. Another question, why so many calibers? In pouches, weapon light with mounting hardware and 2 suppressors, size for the rifle and the pistol. Strangest damn bandits. An inner pocket held a plastic vial of pellets, toy yellow, 4 of those gray-green I'd seen already packed in cotton. Everyone carried them. Fine. I'd figure them out later. I kept the magazines and 3 boxes of rifle rounds. The rest ammo and components from the gun safe went into a duffel. I wrapped the long guns in a blanket and hid them all in the crawl space under the hall. If you didn't know the hatch was there, you wouldn't find it. I left the safe door open, let visitors think someone had already looted it. I packed the ruck, sweater, 2 cans of stewed pork, a loaf of stale bread, food, filled my own canteen with water, kept only the booze canteens from the enemy might be useful. Last I added the suppressors, light, and binoculars I'd once gifted to Grandpa and he never used. I patted it all with a towel so it wouldn't clank. Time to get out of the city. I reached the city edge faster than I'd thought. The city had shrunk, the outskirts on this side were gone too. I had to wait out a couple patrols and watch them load girls into a retrofitted bus. My teeth ground, too many bandits around for me to do anything. The bus left with SUVs and a truckload of thugs heading for more hunting, I guessed. Behind me, a hunter's shotgun cracked. Maybe Uncle Nate had gotten another. Brief and fiercer shots. That may he get to Luba like he wanted. I had work of my own and revenge to collect for him. 30 meters separated the last houses from the first trees. Not far except for the bodies scattered off to the side and an SUV with a gunner and 2 riflemen scanning alertly. I waited for a distraction and tried not to think about the morning's weirdness, the vanishing mountains, the missing city districts, the forest that wasn't taiga anymore but some mixed woodland. A shot snapped from somewhere close. The gunner flailed and dropped into the hatch. The 2 riflemen dove for cover behind the SUV and sprayed fire at something. One exposed half his back to me. At 50 meters, even with an unfamiliar rifle, you don't miss. My shot overlapped another report from the mystery shooter. The second rifleman didn't notice me at all. He kept firing at the same patch of trees. 20 meters out, circling the SUV, I caught him mid-reload and put a short burst through his faceplate. I checked the first one, twitched. One more round. I popped the door, finished the gunner, grabbed a rucksack off the back seat, and knelt to slice the chest rig off the first body. Time was ticking, more would come on the sound. 2 teenage boys dashed up, mystery shooter's own shotgun between them. Of all the genius plans, take on a gun truck and 2 rifles with 1 scatter gun? No. Last? I pointed right. You cut his rig free. Knife on his belt. You grab the rucks in back. Collect their rifles. Now. They jumped to it without a peep. Uncle Alex? Waiter. Bruh. Forest. Or they'll mulch us. Thick understory saved us 30 meters in and the world turned green and quiet. We made the tree line just as more engines roared up. Shouts, a machine gun rattling, wild shots into the trees. Then confusion. I hauled the boys down as bullets hissed through the leaves over us. Stay low. Keep trees to your backs. Oh. I pointed them into a shallow draw and waited a few beats, listening to the yelling by the road. No one followed. I caught up to the kids in a dry gully after about half a click at improvised trench, heads just peeking over. I dumped the sacks and started sorting. What now? The fair-haired one asked between breath, short, coiled, the one with the shotgun. The other was dark-haired, taller, quieter, watchful, steady. Now we make it work. Names? I'm Wally. Here's Sam. Sam, you? Not. Just quiet. Fit. I tore through a small 5-liter ruck, stacking rifle rounds, loading 3 spare mags, adding 6 more boxes from the enemy bags. I screwed on both suppressors, pistol thumped to a cough, the rifle's bark went to a deep hush. Both went into my ruck within easy reach. How do you know me? I'm tight with Andrew Sergei Vasiliev's younger brother. We met at their place when you got back from the army. You really served with grenadiers? Yeah. The gully ran long, I scanned around. Ved spot. Hard to miss from above. I studied the boys. Okay, soldiers. You stay put. They bristled. Quiet. I circle the city and see what's what. Your job, split gear across the rucks, keep everything. Break down the rigs, sort ammo by caliber. This rifle's a different caliber, smaller, so everything for it goes in one ruck. There's canned pork and bread, eat when you need. Water scarce, a sip it. I'm counting on you. Don't let me down. I left them with a nod and jogged a wide arc through the trees to come out by the river. Asterisk, 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 laughter. 4 men by a car at the forest edge. 1 girl pinned on the grass, one held her arms above her head with one hand while he groped with the other, another was finishing between her legs, 2 more heckled and joked. I backed off, screwed the pistol suppressor on. Took my time on the stalk. Summer undergrowth hid me, they were all eyes on the fun. The one at her face had just tucked himself and was shrugging on his rig. The other 2 stood side on. I put the rounder through the spine of the loudmouth standing with his back to me, the holder next temple shot. The freshly finished one knelt to climb on and turned his face my way, eyes widening, took one between the eyes. I had to roll his body off. Hirsch lay there, legs splayed, staring at the sky like it wasn't real. I found her torn top, draped it over her, and swept the scene. Quiet. No one else nearby. Asterisk, 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 easy. Eat it. I held the girl while she sobbed soundlessly into my chest. They got what they had coming. No one is going to hurt you again. I'd already stripped the car and stacked anything useful. I took trousers off the shortest one, camouflage pants for her. They'd cut hers off. While I searched the others, she stirred, returning to herself. Drink. I tilted a flask to her lips. They all carried alcohol. I picked the harshest and let her cough. It kick-started speech. What is that crap? She rasped. One more sip. You need to pull yourself together. We can't stay. I'm not drinking that again. It's vile. Fine. Put these on. I handed her the pants. Yours are? Her eyes focused. She saw the bodies. One of them pants around his ankles didn't improve the view. She sucked in a breath and then began whispering everything she had to say about me, them, the world. You planning to sprint around the forest, Bear asked. My patience thinned. I will if I have to. I need to wash. She finally realized she was topless in front of me, grabbed the ripped shirt and hugged it to herself. Don't look at me. Where exactly do you plan to wash? We're out of water. The river's not close. You've got bottles. She pointed weakly at my stash. I'll use one. And drink what? That's all the water we have, and I don't know when we'll get more. I can't walk around like this. Tears again. Fine. 1 bottle. 10 minutes. I nodded at the bushes. No. The other 4 bottles went into the food bag. I finished searching OID. I stashed flasks of booze under the nearest tree who didn't need a bar right now. I carried the rifles and 2 rucks 20 meters into the brush. I was heading back to hustle her when the car radio crackled. Hans to Buckskin. Hans to Buckskin? Hans to Buckskin. You stuck out there, you morons? She peeked out of the bushes, eyes wide, bare legs under the shirt, pants in her hands. We had to go. Time's up. I jerked my head. The radio kept barking for Hans. She jumped into the trousers, rolled the cuffs, grabbed 2 rifles and the food bag without being asked. Take these 2 and the bag. Huh? She shook her head. Let's move. We carried the rest to a fallen log 200 meters out and dumped it underneath. Wait here. I'll bring the rest. You won't leave me? I'm coming back. I swung away, then remembered to ask her name. I'm Alex. I know. I'm Vicky. I saw you at the dance. The girl said you just got back from the army. She hesitated. Thank you. What? You know. Don't mention it. Somebody saved me this morning too. I trotted off. I checked on Wally and Sam. Boys were where I'd left them. All good. What did you see? Who are those guys? Wally flooded me with questions. Sam watched quietly, still figuring it out. This is Vicky. I handed over 1 bottle to top up my canteen, leaving the rest for them. Anyone pass here? No. I'm going back out. Alone, I added as both Wally and Vicky opened their mouths. You watch. You guard Vicky. Wally nodded. Sam gave a thumbs up. Vicky huffed. Tivis. I ghosted off on a new arc, different direction this time. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. 2 hours of circling showed me the band had moved on. Neighbors drifted through the streets in shock. Wails rose and fell like sirens. On Grandpa Nate's street, 2 of the bastards lay dead across from his house. They hadn't bothered to bury them or their own. They'd stripped gear and thighs, stopped me cold, split them open, emptied bellies. And in my yard lay the same ghost, with his gut opened. Bandits, alcoholics, and zealots? Split your gut to enter heaven? What the hell? I found Uncle Nate inside, slumped across his broken double barrel. An automatic burst had chewed his chest and the stock. They hadn't desecrated him like their own. Small mercy. Rest, old man. I'll be back before night. I checked on the neighbors, the Pantaleaves. Alive. Grandpa John had taken a pistol round through the calf. Their dog had died charging the intruder. The bastard had left after finding John's ammunition. The strangest thing, Grandpa John said between gritted teeth, he knew exactly where the ammo was hidden. I'd never seen him in my life. He shoved Nina aside, shot me, and went straight to the stash. Didn't ask a thing. So he did. I shook my head. Nothing's clear. I'll come back tonight. I need to bury Uncle Nate and haul these bodies out. Smell will be hell tomorrow. God knows what tomorrow brings. I have to finish today. We heard him fighting. God grant him the kingdom. They crossed themselves. Though, Alex. It was a long day. I fetched the kids and Vicky, wrapped our weapons and rucks in a tarp, and hid the bundle in a drawer. We split up. Lee and Sam walked Vicky home. I moved another stash and touched it, then returned to the SUV and rolled it into deeper brush, camouflaging with branches. The radio was dead now. Maybe those calls had been from the tail end of the raid and no one came looking when no one answered. By late evening I dug a grave under the apple tree and buried Uncle Nate with his shotgun, wrapped in a blanket. I hauled 2 slit bandits into the forest on my neighbor's yard cart, wrapped them in sheets to keep the guts from spilling. Why did they cut them open? On my way back I picked up the stash rifle and ruck, then dropped off ammunition for Grandpa John. He didn't say a word about the harness, the pistol, the rifle. I guess I looked the part. He poured 2 shots. We drank. I ate a bite, nodded my thanks, and headed to the SUV to sleep. No way was I spending the night in town. I dragged a sleeping bag between the rear side seats and locked the doors. I was out in seconds. I was exhausted. Chapter 2. Birds woke me at dawn, nothing else. No engines, no shouts, no shots. My head felt clear. The city looked calm from behind the tree line. People were moving slow, no strangers in sight. I should check on friends later. For now, it. I smacked my forehead. I have a prisoner in the cellar? How could I forget? My only defense, yesterday, wrecked me. Then I toasted Uncle Nate with Grandpa John and passed out. I geared up properly this time. He wasn't walking anywhere unarmed and hustled to my building. Neighbors eyed me sideways, but no one stopped me. A couple even said hi. I stood a minute by the basement door, listening. Plat. I clipped the flashlight to my rifle and opened up, going slow. Then I heard it muffled through the storage door, a long, animal moan. I grabbed the other flashlight I'd left by the stairs and went in. What the hell are you howling about? I asked as I opened the cage. The moan sharpened. Smells like hell in here, I gagged. I hauled him out by the ropes. He'd crapped himself at some point. The moan got under my skin, dreadful and weirdly steady. I yanked the gag out. He'd chewed it to a pulp. Did you give me live water? He rasped. It came out like nonsense, lipstick. He convulsed so hard I thought he might die right there. What? We'll live later. Or I die. You'll live. Drig. I tilted a canteen to his lips. We still have to talk. Half a canteen later, he could form words. The tremors eased. Live water or I croak. Vodka? I've got some. The ruck had a booze flask from the SUV. There are sporins sewn into my waistband. Take them out. Sewn in. I cut open the seam and found 4 pea-sized green pellets heat-sealed in plastic. He watched them like a dog at steak. What are these? Drop it. Waiter. Drop a sporin into a shot of vodka. Let it dissolve. Pour it through a rag. Mix it with water in the canteen. He hissed. Convulsions flared again. Is that what you carry in those flasks? Yes. He bobbed his head frantically. I didn't bother with chemistry. Let him drink from the flask that reeked the right way. 6 big gulps and he went limp, breathing easier. A little more. He swallowed 3 more sips and exhaled. Color came back to his face. Almost died. He relaxed against the wall. Now we can talk. You'll talk first, I said. What's a spec? I held up the tin with 3 prefilled syringes and the mixed pellets. What's in the syringes? That's spec, he said. If you hit me with all 3 after we're done before you kill me, I'll tell you everything and not hold back. What does it do? Baseline dose, painkiller, stim, healing. If you up the dose, narcotic. Powerful. But savage boss doesn't allow junkies. Hit me with all 3 after. I'll make it worth it. Talk first. Lie water. Tsaporin. Savage. All of it. Untie me. We'll talk like people. One more wisecrack and I start asking questions my way. What's your name? He sighed like I'd stabbed him already. First thing you need to understand, we're not in your world. This is the Hive. He watched my face. And don't bother with names. Names are for the old world. Here, no one uses legal names, only handles. I'm Nomad. I asked what you're called. I told you. Fresh meat keep their names a day or 2. Then they learn. Men all have handles. Women keep names. Call me Nomad because of the hair. He smirked weakly. Guess I get to be a godfather for once, the first time I've ever enlightened a fresh one. We should celebrate, Godson. I kicked him in the gut. He folded, gagging. I yanked his head up by the hair. Last warning. Then we do it my way. You psycho, he wheezed. I almost puked out my guts. I lifted my boot again. He flinched. Fine. Listen. He's hot. I listened and filed every claim away to verify. This world is made of clusters, he said. Think honeycomb cells in a hive. Clusters vary. Sometimes an entire city drops in. Sometimes it's just a patch of forest or a single farmhouse in a field. Size varies too. Some you can cross in an hour, some take days. Here's the kicker. Standard clusters reset. Loot reappears where it was. You can walk past a field and find a car keys inside. Drive on. Come back tomorrow, it's there again. I asked. If it's a paradise, why are there raiders? Paradise? He laughed until I slapped him. He stared at nothing, then whispered, this isn't heaven. It's hell. You're going to die soon. He started laughing, again cracked, hysterical. I let him blow it out. Everybody who arrives gets infected. His voice went flat. Spore fungus. It grows in you. You exhale spores. Circle of life. You're alive. I'm immune. That's the word, immune. The fungus lives in me, but I don't get sick. Immunes are different. We don't get sick anymore. Lose a limb. It can grow back. Your kind? In a few days, the soul drains out and leaves a hungry shell. You'll want one thing meat. Humans best. Vampire? I asked. Zombie? Empties, at first, he said. Slow, stupid, messy. They crap themselves because they forget to pull their pants down, so they end up walking around naked. If they feed, they evolve and get faster, meaner, smarter. Then they grow spore sacs on the back of their skulls. Those sacs are where sporins come from. He licked his lips. Let me have a sip. Waiter. Why were you shaking without live water? Immunes aren't immortal, he said. Not from bullets, anyway. But we don't die of old age if we keep drinking live water. It has what our fungus needs. Without it, we dead. Live water is brewed from sporins. And yet those gray-green peas in your tin? Sporins. My stomach rolled when I realized what I'd used to splash into Vicky's mouth. What about the yellow ones? I showed him the vial. He nearly lunged to bite my hand. This? English, nomad. Gorak peas. He swallowed. Strong stuff. Immunes who hunt big mutants harvest those. You soak a pea in vinegar until it fizzes, neutralize with baking soda, strain it, and drink. It boosts your gift. Ugh. He nodded. Alive? Rewards immunes. Some can blur out of sight guy you met in your yard. Bust. Others move so fast it looks like the world stops. Some throw fire. Some see at night like cats. Kinetics. Healers that can wake a gift or help you train it. The rarest are Xerxers. They can copy any object. You get a Zer in your stat, you feed him peas, and he'll be swimming in ammo and batteries before long. He sighed, dreamy. Live. No luck. Weak gift. No peas for me. The center boys take all the peas, and we're just mealless armed slaves. What to stab? Stable cluster, he said. Few don't reset, or reset so rarely people forget. You get fortresses, their towns. That's where most live. They're ringed with traps, mines, trip flares, wire coils. Cameras on the roads and pats. Posts with eyes. Safety. Oz. Baths. Brothels. He glanced at me. Nothing's free. Currency is sporins and ammo. You want medicine? Healers charge. You want to rest? You want to copy ammo? Head the Zer. And the stink fog yesterday morning? Kisliak, he said. Sour fog means a reset is coming. You get hours. Maybe a day. People caught in it? Don't come out right. And even if you Darators use reset windows to strip a cluster bare. Elite mutants pearls race in for the feast. You don't want to be anywhere near a rich cluster when it resets. Why are we still alive then? I asked. Why no elites? He shrugged against the rope. Your cluster's a unicorn. You're in a bag 100 kilometers of forest clusters with nothing in them, ringed by dead clusters where nothing lives and electronics go mad. There's a single throat out. Our Stabram Steiny's 15 clicks past the throat. Outsiders, high-tech folks who cut into the hive from other worlds work with Savage to keep the area clear. They hunt elites for pearls and us. He met my eyes. They take immune organs. Make something they sell back home. Cures. Youth, I don't know. We sell them organs. Better to sell than wake up on their table. I thought about the slit bodies and the empty cooler box I'd found under that car seat, special mounts for containers. You slit your own dead and sell the guts. I didn't ask. He looked away. You're all heart. Don't judge fresh meat. He flared. I was left to die by honorable. Raiders stripped and dumped because I was hit and wouldn't make it. Mercer crew dragged me out, patched me, kept me fed. They won't shoot me in the back. I know if I die they'll sell my organs. I accept that. Meanwhile, your noble raiders will be busy raping your city's women this week. Savage makes more in these 3 days than in a year. Sporn auctions, peas, sometimes pearls if something fattens up. Everyone pretends they don't buy hours with women from fresh clusters. Everyone lies. He burned out on the last word and went quiet. We sat a while. I turned it over, piece by piece. Somewhere between disgust and grim acceptance, the rage cooled into a blade. When do your people come back? I asked at last. 2-3 weeks. They'll wait until the runners sure fast once, then out the herd and the fatties start sprouting sacks. Then they'll sweep often. Which way is the throat? Head east 8 clicks to a bridge that isn't there anymore, he said, smirking. Then the road bends north, then northwest. 15 clicks out Tramstein. Other stads? Go west. You'll hit somebody. I nodded, fetched the tin, and held up a syringe. Vein or muscle? Vein works faster. He offered his arm. I'm still going to die, right? You are. Then do it by the book. Give me a gift while I can still think. What gift? Say your handle, he whispered, a dopey grin already spreading as the first syringe hit. You'll remember your godfather fondly. Bear, I said. Shathan. My call sign in the army. I name you Bear, Nomad chuckled. Don't trust anyone, Bear. I wasn't always scum. This place makes you what it wants. Today you share bread with a friend in a stab, tomorrow he knifes you for a pouch of sporins. Sect freaks wear smiles. His voice thinned. Watch your back. I'll remember, I said and drove the knife into his heart. He kept grinning. It took a couple hard turns to stop him. My godfather was Sergeant Savliev, I said to the quiet room. He taught me how to lie and gave me that call sign. Chapter 3. Birdsong shook me awake at dawn. I lay there a minute, listening the way a man listens to a place that still isn't his, then rolled onto an elbow and let the morning back into my head. No time to lie around, there was too much I still had to figure out. First thing, I put the binoculars to the city through the fringe of trees. Not much movement. Here and there a shape on a roof, a couple figures slipping across a courtyard. Farther out, by the road, 2 cars nosed around like dogs that had lost a scent. No columns. No fast patrols. Either they'd pulled out after the sour or they were sleeping off yesterday's work. Both at once. I set a simple plan, check on the old folks, then swing through friends. Places and see who is still breathing. The closer I crept to the edge, the stranger it felt to look at streets I knew and see a different city pasted over them. The Abacan was still there, a great blade under the morning. The 5-story blocks were still there. But chunks were missing like someone had taken a bite and was chewing out of sight. The forest pressed closer. The air smelled clean in the wrong way. I left the kids tucked into a thicket with the SUV key and a line of retreat. If I don't come back by noon, you move to the sand pits and wait under the shelf. Nobody plays hero. Vicky wanted to argue. I looked at her a second longer than I had to. She swallowed it and nodded. Grandpa John's kitchen tasted like strong tea and gun oil. Nina had slept in a chair, but her hands didn't shake. The old man sat with his leg up, bandage clean and white. You came early, he said. Before the day forgets what it's supposed to be, I said. We're moving west today. The fog may turn again. He tilted his head toward the window. City's quiet. Quiet like a field after wolves, I said. That doesn't mean safe. We packed what mattered and almost nothing else: bread, a jar of stewed pork, salt, 2 cups, a kettle, spare foot traps, a blanket. Nina took the icons down, wrapped them in an old pillowcase, and didn't need permission. We rolled the yard cart into the lane and bled through alleys the way water finds low ground. Twice I froze them with a hand and let shouts pass. Once a man in a cage helmet trotted down the main like he owned it. He didn't look left. That saved us all 10 rounds. We made the trees. Wally flowed out of the brush and took the cart without being asked. Sam slipped in to point with me. Vicky fell in beside Nina and told small, ordinary things that help people remember how to breathe. We turned west. Asterisk, 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 by mid-morning the forest said safe. In that lying way again. No runners. 2 empties that couldn't find us. We drifted south of the road and then edged back up to look from a fold. An SUV sat wrong in a driveway with branches tossed over it like a blanket. No voices. No engine tick scold. I let it be. Noise is a tax you only pay when there's no other way out. We got the old folks settled in the green and fed them soup we'd promised them yesterday and hadn't had time to make. Nina insisted on feeding me too. I didn't argue. You don't anger saints when the hive's listening. Then I remembered the thing I'd tried not to think about, the prisoner in the basement cage. I set the others to sorting and left the rifle with Vicky. If you fire, I said, fire twice. If you don't have to, don't. I'll be quick. The stairwell smelled like damp rope and bad dreams. He moaned when I opened the storage door, long and low and steady, like a saw through wet wood. He'd fouled himself at some point. The stink hit like a slap. I hauled him out by the rope and gave him water. He swallowed like a man just pulled from a river and failed to come back to himself. When I pried the gag out, he chewed it to felt. Give me Zinger, he rasped. It came out broken Zinger, but I understood. He convulsed hard enough I thought he'd go to pieces on the floor. What? I asked, even though I knew the word already. Zinger, he said again. Or I die. You'll live. I lifted the canteen to his mouth. We still have to talk. Half a canteen later he could make words. Vodka? He croaked. I've got some. The ruck from the SUV had a flask that smelled like it could kill paint. There are sporins sewn into my waistband, he said. Cut them out. I slit the seam and took 4 pea-sized gray-green pellets sealed in plastic. His eyes locked on them like a dog on a steak. Drop one into a shot, he hissed. Let it fizz. Filter it. Cut it with water. He shook. I didn't waste time measuring, got what he needed, and color started back into his face. He breathed like a man who'd had the sea stand up off his chest. Almost die. He relaxed by inches. Now we can talk. You'll talk first, I said. What spec? I held up a little tin with 3 prefilled syringes and mixed pellets I'd found on his buddy. What's in the needles? That's spec, he said. Baseline dose, painkiller, stim, healing. Big dose, narcotic. Hit me with all 3 after we're done before you kill, man, I'll tell you everything. You're not running this, I said. Cinder. Saporin. The Hive. You start at the start. Untie me and I talk like a person, he said. One more wisecrack and we do it my way. I waited. He waited. We stared until his eyes turned away first. Fine, he said. First you understand this isn't your world. You're in the Hive. I got that part, I said. Your name? No one uses names here, he said. Only handles. Fresh meat keep their names a day. Then they learn. He watched my face. I'm nomad. We'd been there before, but this time the words came easier. He's hot. I'll let him. He gave me what I already suspected and a few things I didn't want proved. Clusters that reset. Loot that returns. Immunes that don't get sick but don't live without zinger. Outsiders who dock at the throat and buy organs the way other people buy bolts. He kept glancing at the syringe tin like it was a ticket and the train would leave without him. You want spec, I said, when he started shaking again. I watched you, he said. You don't leave loose ends. You'll cut my throat after. I know the rules. Give me the ride and I'll make the last minutes useful. What do you want to buy with it? I asked. You can't pay for out with talk. Just a little quiet, he said, very tired now. And a chance to think straight once before I go. I stared at him long enough that he started to look at the floor. Then I slid the first needle home. Vein or muscle? Vein, he said, and offered his arm without looking away. The grin found him before the plunger was all the way down. You're still going to die, I said. I was always going to die, he whispered. You too, Bear. He chuckled. You got named? Bear, I said. Shathan. Good name, he said. Don't trust anyone who smiles for free. I pushed the second syringe and his voice got far away, like we were talking down a pipe. He started to tell me where the throats sat and how the gates sang and where the Murs sold their loot and where the outsiders parked their shadow. He told me enough that when I stood again I had a map in my head and a blade in my mouth that wanted a proper throat. Last one, I said. Do it, he breathed. The third hit him like a clean wave. He smiled like a boy and then like a skull and then like nothing. I put the knife into his heart the way I'd meant to half an hour earlier and turned it the way I'd learned to turn it when a wheeze lasted too long. He kept smiling. It took 2 hard turns to stop him. I sat a while on the cellar step with my elbows on my knees and let the damp soak into my sleeves. Then I packed the tin and the peas and the flask and shut the door on the smell. Outside, the birds were still lying to themselves that the day would be ordinary. Time to moo. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. By noon I had the kids back on their feet and the old folks settled deeper under the trees. The sour hadn't come back yet, but the air felt thin like a house after a move. We split loads, rewrapped feet, and ate on our heels. West again? Wally asked. West, I said. And if the fog turns sour, we don't run sink and let it pass. Wet the cloth. Breathe shallow. No talking. Vicky tied her scarf. And if they come? Then we become trees, I said. And let them run past the forest. We moved. We moved in a long, thin line met point, Sam watching my shoulders, Wally dragging the cart behind Nina and John, Vicky watching our rear with her jaw set the way a person sets a nail before the hammer comes down. The forest took us, and the road forgot we'd been on it. The sour rolled late that day. I smelled it, first vinegar over wet flour, and snapped my fingers twice. We slid into a shallow between roots, soaked scarves, and breathed small. The fog poured white and left the leaves dull for a time, then bright again like someone had wiped them with a greasy rag. An empty wobbled by with its pants around one ankle and grief in what was left of its eyes. We let it go and it forgot us. When the light came back honest, we drank and pushed on. We cut south toward the sand pit cavity shaped like a bowl and made camp before dusk turned stupid. Fish soup, bread gone hard as a fist, the taste of smoke. The kids ate like they'd earned it. The old folks smiled the way people smile when the world hasn't taken their piece today. Night brought company. Not men footsteps that weren't steps, the slow drag of something with weight and an idea about us. I raised a palm. We killed the fire with a lid and went from talking to listening. A shape hunched on the lip and grinned like a person who'd learned how. It asked me for a pee. I gave it a round through the mouth. When it twitched, I burned it. You sleep lighter if you don't leave questions just outside the tarp. In the morning we turned west toward Rumor, a place called White Oak that didn't sell people and didn't prey over pockets. We crossed sign, 6 boot pairs, deep, steady, heading in the same direction. Soldiers or men pretending. The boys saw me see it and got small without being told. Vicky's eyes never lost the line of our trail. The day gave us a choice, marsh or windthrow. I hate marsh. I took windthrow and paid for it. Trunks like a pile of matchsticks, bark that wanted to roll an ankle, branches that wanted to announce our names. Halfway across, 3 wolves bigger than they should be slid into our old line like they'd been late to the party. The smallest limped. It sniffed our air and turned its head the way a dog listens for a sound you can't hear. Then something screamed to our right, human, and they flowed that way like poured mercury. We waited long after the quiet came back. Then we moved. By late afternoon we hit the sand pits and dug our shelf and built a lean-to. The world pretended to be ordinary until it remembered it wasn't. A voice down valley tried to be God in a cheap sermon. We left it to the trees. We slept in thirds. At my turn, the stars looked like they'd backed away. I sharpened the tomahawk on leather and told myself a story where the ending still liked me. Toward dawn, I dreamed of a throat that sang the wrong song and woke with my hand on the hawk and the hawk where it belonged. In the morning we angled back toward the road. Outsiders rolled by, low 6-wheeled buggies and a beetle truck with a cage on the back. A runner made a foolish choice. A crack from nowhere removed its head. The crane hooked the meat like it was a sack of flour and the convoy hummed away. We were small until small was safe. By noon, we'd bled far enough west that the forest started telling a new story. We found a lease with wire and cans and a man named Stan who'd fought in Afghanistan and planted his traps like other men plant potatoes. He fed us fish soup and told me where to put my feet. I left him a suppressor and he left me a coil of wire and a belief that not all old men had decided to die convenient. We came out of his yard lighter in the head. The boys learned to coil wire that didn't kink and how to sharpen a shovel to cut roots. Vicky learned cadence under a sergeant with a scar. Nina traded recipes for needles. Grandpa John watched the tree line and hummed like a man who remembered songs before the hive. By evening the smells were wrong again. I told the kids the truth, we don't run when sour comes. We're sick. We breathe small. We don't talk. They nodded like people who had learned to live by rules written on skin. We moved. By late day, the trees thinned and the smell of wood smoke came proper, not kitchen smoke, work smoke. Trenches. Nets. Men who'd already done today yesterday. We found White Oak by the way the ground felt right under the feet of people who checked their wire at dawn. They didn't point rifles at our teeth. They pointed them at the spaces near us and watched how we breathed. A bearded man with engineer's eyes nodded once at the stretcher and said, "You carry him in, you eat." That's how a place says hello now. They took Dan into cloth and boiled steel. Mary followed and didn't fall down. Nina found hands that knew what to do with a kettle. Grandpa John took a seat that watched the world and hummed 2 notes like a generator. The boys vanished toward tools. Vicky's mouth unclenched by a millimeter. The captain listened to news, not stories. He had a board with today drawn on it and a piece of chalk that didn't waste words. He took my map out of my mouth and put it on wood. He didn't promise anything except the truth. We pull people out. We make them useful. We don't let rot in. That's enough for a first day. Night put fog on the grass. I slept with my boots near the door and the hawk by my hand. Somewhere outside, someone walked a perimeter and thought about their dead and didn't stop walking because that's how the living keep score. In the morning the list would have my name on it. For now, I let the hive hum to itself and didn't argue. End of chapter 3? Chapter 4. White Oak ran on 3 rules: pull people out, make them useful, don't let rot in. By the second morning I could see how those rules turned into chores. We strung tin and wire along the brush line where wind wouldn't sing but men would. We dug sumps where the rain would want to pool and called them wells because words help the back. We laid out a range against a dirt bank and tied onions to strings so you had something mean and small to aim at. We ate what Mary made and pretended it was ordinary. By noon, Captain had a list that needed feet. "East Patrol," he said, tapping the board. "Quarry smoke last night. If it's MERS, we want distance. If it's outsiders, we want holes." His eyes found me, then Fox, then Brick. Oh, the East didn't smell like home yet. It smelled like men who decided a place belonged to them because they had shouted louder yesterday. We moved thin and far apart. Fox floated ahead and left the sort of shadow only a tree can make. Rick ghosted the low ground. I kept to the slope and watched for angles that wanted to be a rifle. The quarry had gone quiet. Ash in rings, tarps ripped and thrown, 2 bike frames collapsed like rib cages. The bus was gone. The ground wore the kind of prints that mean people were dragged and others decided not to argue with the decision. Outsiders tread, light and precise. Murs tread, heavy and careless. The Hive's tread, like it was laughing. Nothing to take, Fox murmured. Someone took it already. Good, I said. Good and bad. We were turning back when we heard voices that didn't know when to stop being brave. Sect men, 5 of them, chest bare under charms, a preacher with much scar and little sense. They'd set a pot and were boiling a sermon. I would have left them to stew in it, but a woman burst ragged into their clearing like a truth someone had tried to bury in a shallow grave. She wasn't tied. That happens sometimes when men think rope is a plan. She was cut. That happens when plans have knives. She ran to voices because our heads are built that way even when our lives shouldn't be. The preacher opened his arms to show his teeth. Fox moved first. I followed because that's what you do when someone you trust decides to be foolish in a way you understand. Brooke broke 2 men and then we were gone, and the woman's name was Kate, and that was how we brought trouble back to camp and called it rescue. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. By evening, the fog tasted like vinegar again. We slept in holes and woke up the way people wake when the air goes back to being only air. Captain didn't praise us, he counted. 19 out, he said when the bus raid was finished the next night and we came in with tired mouths and new eyes behind bruises. We keep the noise small. Noise doesn't stay small when men like Savage have ears. We all knew he'd hear. We didn't say his name at the fire. We didn't have to. I tried to sleep. My arm throbbed where a bullet had grazed it. The healer poured hell into the hole and called it medicine. I saw a constellation I didn't know and tried to name it something kind. I failed and slept anyway. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Next morning Captain said throat, and the circle went quiet. We don't take it, he said. We take it away for a week. He looked at me and I looked back and I think we both hated that we liked the plan. Pattern breaking, he said. Wire their wire, sing their whistles wrong, loosen a bolt the field can't see. Night made us owls. The platform learned it weighed what it didn't and didn't weigh what it did. The gate sang the wrong song in the small hours. A bell-fed choked on a grain of grit that had found religion in the spring. On the 7th night the cable lifted, sighed, and failed while a cooler swung like a bad omen. A man grabbed. The weight took his hand because weight does not care. Savage came the next night. He walked like gravity, liked him more than the rest of us. He didn't shout. He didn't smile. He looked where we'd touched things and then he looked at the hills the way a man looks at a dog that won't come when called. He left and men remembered how to breathe. We didn't shoot a pattern with a bullet. We broke it with time. White Oak slept heavier that morning than it had all week. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. People came when the toll stuck. They always do. That's another pattern you can count on. We planted more wire. We hummed more tins. We taught kids the right wrong note on a whistle. Rogue 12. Jar of zinger under her palm stood at Vicky's elbow and watched the way a person watches a door that might be a road. We sent teams south to feel where the dead clusters began and stocked. We sent north to find water that wasn't on maps. We told each other the day's truth. Outsiders had a shadow dock on a lake curved like a sickle with a crane meaner than the one at the throat. The bag burned slow where it stood. You needed sand after it passed, not water. Captain drew circles that kissed and wrote oak, ash, birch on the board like a man writing the names of his children when he can't keep them all in one bed. We moved the nets. We stayed human. At night I dreamed of a bridge that wasn't and a road that bent wrong and a man whose name was a problem more than a person. In the morning the hawk was still in its sheath. That's all you get sometimes. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Work moved the story forward. The rest is detail and sweat and the way soup tastes better when the person on your left is still breathing at dawn. End of chapter 4. Initial segment. The next days proved what Captain kept saying, you don't win in the Hive, you last. We lasted by doing the same 10 things well and not inventing an 11th when we were tired. Morning, wire check, water, watch change. Midday, drills. Evening, board, routes, who's missing and who got found. Night, polls. Fox ran a class I wish I'd had at 19. Your eyes lie, she said, tapping the brim of her cap. Mirage, wishful thinking, fear they all want to rent space in here. Charge rent. She made the kids call out what they thought they saw, then prove it with glass, then prove it again by angle. Wally started guessing less. Sam started guessing not at all. Brick took me aside and showed me how to make a step plate out of 2 beer caps, a match head, and a piece of bicycle tube. For ankles, he said. If they don't learn, they limp. Limping men stop being brave. He didn't smile. He didn't need to. The healer made me stitch a real wound. Not mine, a man who tried to lift a pot one-handed and lost a piece of his finger to the lid. You want to break patterns? Kisa. Start with the ones that bleed in camp. I closed the skin. The man looked at me like I'd done a magic trick. All I'd done was not shake. At dusk, Captain drew the lake on the board and we talked about shadows that dock and throats that move when money wants them to. We don't chase, he said again. We make it bad business to come here. He tapped the corners of our nets. Bird. We breathe with the trees. Rogue slept with a spoon the first night. The second night she slept with the spoon under her cheek. The third she forgot to hold it. Vicky noticed and didn't point it out. That's another rule you learn if you're lucky, don't narrate your friends. Survival in front of them. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. On the 4th day after we bent the throat, a courier reached us with a story from the North Line. A crane on a lake moved like a bird learning to walk. A platform shivered like a horse that hates its saddle. Outsiders were adjusting. Patterns don't die, they molt. We marked the new feathers in chalk and decided not to pluck them yet. Instead, we sent a small pack to the White Line again. The dead cluster had edged to steps south like frost at night. The healer's boy collected moss the color of old bruises and put it in jars, labeling in a hand tidy enough to be a small rebellion. We'll learn something from it, he said. Even if it's just don't touch. Stan came by with a coil of wire and the kind of fish that tastes like a river thought kind thoughts while it grew. He looked at our tins, grunted at our holes, and moved a tripline 3 fingers to the left. Wind's different here, he said. Trees tell you if you listen. We listened. The wind did sound like it came from a different place than yesterday. At night someone started singing a song about a backen that used to make men drink too much and call their exes. We made it 2 verses before Captain cleared his throat and the song died the way a candle does in a draft. Some things you don't bring back. Not yet. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. Trouble came sneaking, not roaring. A boy on watch heard steps that were trying very hard not to be steps. He hissed once. We went small. Tumors tested the wire with sticks, found copper with their noses, and smiled to each other like they'd been taught well. They tried a new angle that wasn't new to us. A Ken sang. One took a step. The ground bit him to the calf. He didn't scream. The other cut the wire like a pro and almost made a gap before Brick's shovel put a stop to the lesson. Captain didn't hang the bodies on the line. He dug the hole out past the birches and said words over the dirt that weren't for them so much as for us. Rot doesn't move in, he reminded us. We don't farm it. We tightened the wire and set the plate again and slept as much as anyone sleeps after men who wanted you dead decide not to want anything anymore. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. In the gray before dawn, Reed came to me with a look I recognized from mirrors. Heard the crane at wrong o'clock, he said. To wise. Outsiders tried a midnight dock and then a 2 in the morning. He rubbed at his elbow where a scar liked to itch. Means they're nervous. Nervous men are careful, I said. And careless, he said. In different places. We stared at the board until our eyes hurt. Then I drew a line to the west that was more hope than map. If they swing the throat north, I said, this road becomes worth something again. Or a killing floor, he said amiably. Same difference here, I said. True, he said, and we both smiled without showing teeth. Chapter 4 continues. At last, like Captain called the circle. Not a speech, just the ledger read out loud. 2 found on the east line, 1 old, 1 too young to be this quiet. No outsider dust today. MERS tested us paid for the lesson. Lake Crane sang wrong at 2:17 and 3:01. White Line crept a boot length south. Oak, ash, birch stay split. Bus people eat and work. Rogue sleeps. He looked up, found me. Tomorrow you rest, he said. The day after, you walk. Where? I asked, though I knew the answer wouldn't matter until it did. Where the pattern blinks, he said. And you don't chase men. You chase habits. We ate in the blue hour and listened to the forest invent reasons to keep us. I sharpened the hawk and rolled the bandage down my arm to let the night see the hole and promise not to open it again. Vicky sat with Rogue and taught her a dumb hand game kids used to play at bus stops. Nina told Mary a joke she'd cleaned twice. Wally and Sam argued about which knot held better and tied both to prove it. Grandpa John watched the dark like it owed him money and might pay. I slept with the thread Nina had knotted under my palm. The hive hummed. Wido hummed back. Between those songs, we rested. End of chapter 4.